Cool. Well, welcome everyone. We are in our third session of exploring line and trajectory, cosmic wholeness. In the past couple of sessions, we've been mostly looking at trajectories, and today we're looking at particular expression of line that I'm very excited about. But before we do that, we just quickly flow through our opening. You can follow along with gestures, and words, either or you can also just think and feel through the opening. Here I am, as I am. Just the invitation for a moment to allow yourself to drop in and to just be and show up exactly as you are. Nothing to change, nothing to fix right now. Here I am, embracing myself. That's the invitation to just listen in to what you need today, what you need the session to be today, to allow yourself to adjust and modify in the ways that serve you. Here I am, entering receiving mode. And that's the big freedom of letting go of having to figure out, get it right to prove anything. While there might be some wisdom and ideas floating by today, it's not our job to find just the right thing or understand just the right thing. We just get to be in the experience, in the moment, and trust that the trees grow from seeds by themselves. Here I am, and how do I want to be with this time? How do I want to be with this moment in time? How do I want to be with the material? How do I want to feel in the moment to set an intention? And here I am. And here we are. Just taking a moment to sensing each other's presence. Sensing the presence of everyone in our cosmic wholeness circle worldwide. Sending some gratitude around. Yay. All right. I'm feeling like being on my feet. You may join, you may also stay seated. It's all legit. So today, what I want to look at with us is the wonderful marvel of us being a line in the world, like our upward structure. What does it mean to be this tall pole of a being with a head floating around 4.5 to 6 feet or 6.5 feet up in the air? So maybe let's just step into that and just with curiosity, just observe that marvel of upright structure. And you can move around and just notice that, yes, we are pretty high up actually. How is that even possible? It would be a very different perspective if we were like semi-upright, like our ancestors, or if we were a dog or a flounder. But we happen to be this tall, upright line. In order to start getting an idea around our uprightness, let's play with collapse. So just bring in very little tone into your body. Just kind of let things drop, let things slack, just get to hang a bit. And just feel how that feels as you're moving about, maybe as you're doing some activities even. It could be something like doing the dishes or vacuuming, but let's just do it with very little tone. And then someone comes along and says, whoa, you're really not having good posture. You gotta do something. So stand upright, bring your shoulders back, bring your head back, and let's feel into that. And let's move around with our corrected posture. And maybe go into similar activities. I'm doing the dishes with good posture. I'm doing the vacuuming with good posture. But just noticing what your system is doing and telling you. And maybe go back and forth between like the collapse and the more rigid approach. Feeling into that. And then see if we can find something in the middle, something that is not collapse, something that is not a rigid uprightness, something that is an relaxed, alive uprightness. Where does that come from? Fun thing to try is to go with your mind, go into one of your flow activities, flow experiences. Any experience or any activity that you do that gets you into the zone. If you're in the flow, generally you feel weightless, gravity doesn't really have a pull on you. You often feel timeless. It's like some of those things, like I was painting that picture and whoa, 3 hours were gone. So what is an activity that you like to do that gets you into flow? And maybe start embodying that. Here in Colorado, it could be winter sports. For me, it's likely being part of a dance class. Like it will be uniquely different, but everyone has occasional flow experiences. And as you step back into that experience, just with a part of your attention, notice the tone in your body. And notice if there is collapse or rigidity, or if it is simply tone. Today we'll go and search a little bit for tone and an idea where it might come from, an idea what makes our uprightness more easy and joyful. But let's go and look at nature for a moment first and see how expressions of line, of upright structure in nature function. And we can embody these ideas again. So in Cosmic Wholeness, as we're looking at expressions of the patterns in nature, oftentimes we're using like an approach of embodied imagination. So instead of thinking of that expression on the outside of me, I turn into that tree. I am the tree. I allow tree to move me. And tree actually is our first example. So let's be that tall aspen tree, that nice straight trunk that is going up. And so what gives the aspen tree the integrity? So on the one side there's like a bunch of fibers just running up the entire trunk on the inside. Those fibers are in layers, and they are brought together, held together by the bark on the outside that can also have a certain amount of tension. And the bundling of that, all those fibrous strands by the bark is giving us some of our structure. Happens too that those fibers have a certain flexibility that is helpful. And then of course we're connected to our root system. So deep root system that spreads out, giving us as an aspen birch tree our integrity. Let's look at a sunflower. Sunflower is different. Sunflower doesn't have like the woody fibers. Sunflower has some transport lines, but sunflower has a really cool thing happening, and that is that water inside the cells of the sunflower creates an outward pressure. And that outward pressure, that outward water pressure, meets the cell walls and meets the skin of the sunflower as a container. So there is, as long as the sunflower is hydrated, there is a pressure out toward the outside, and that container holding it in on the inside is giving us our upward tensegrity, or upward structure. Now, bamboo is another cool example of integrity in a very tall upward structure. Bamboo has individual segments, kind of like we have bones. It has individual segments, and those segments are fused together by nodes. Those nodes kind of work like supportive rings. And instead of being like that one thing that could more easily bend or break, we have like those individual segments with reinforcement, and then some fibers running all the way through the bamboo. Also happen to be flexible, bendable, giving the bamboo its structure. So how does that, what are the lines? What are the lines in the human body? Let's go and visit with our internal lines. Let's start with our segments, with our spacers, and just go and visit with our skeleton. So maybe let's just tune into our spine, starting like down at the coccyx, and then all the vertebrae up to the skull. Developmentally, the bone right in the back here of the skull, the occiput, is developmentally even part of the spine. Different than with the bamboo, our parts, our bony segments are not fused together. We have discs in between them. And for the rest of our skeleton, we have the ligaments connecting them. So sensing our spine, flexibility of it, and then sensing into the rest of our musculature. Shoulder bones giving us some width here, arm bones, finger bones, all the bones of our chest and rib cage, creating some space and protection for the vital organs up there. And then of course, all the bones of our hips, bones in our legs, bones in the feet. Now again, all these bones are not fused together. Ligaments connect bone to bone, and joints of course. Tendons connect bones with our musculature. So while there are individual bones, they're really part of one bony system that belongs together. So what other lines do we have inside of ourselves? Let's bring some awareness into the line from our mouth into our lungs, pulmonary line, also connecting our chest with the head, not a separate thing. Another beautiful line from mouth all the way to the anus. Of course, going through the stomach and the digestive system, but there is a connection from that upper end to the lower end. So let's tune into that line inside of us. Just feeling what these line ideas do to the perception of our structure and integrity. Does it change something to perceive that connection? So other lines inside of us would be transport lines. We're meeting our arteries and veins. Of course, all kind of connected with the heart, but then going all the way into the arms and fingers, all the way down the legs, into the toes, brain. It's an entire network of these lines. Then we have the lines of our lymphatic system, also a network that is spreading out through the wholeness of us. Then we have our electrical system, our nervous system, sending electric impulses. Also a large, vast network. We have energy lines, meridians. So all of these by themselves, even all of them put together, don't quite justify our uprightness yet. Let's bring in the muscles. Let's bring in our musculature. And just noticing and knowing that, yeah, if we're gym friends, we know like those exercises that isolate the biceps or the triceps, but in the end, none of our muscles are ever completely isolated. So let's perceive that vast network and costume of muscles as connected. There are muscles going diagonal and across, and they're everywhere. Giving some stability and movability to our skeleton. Move here affects movement there. In my integrated state, even if I wave at a person, my entire body is involved in that. Or if I'm in my flow activity, I can isolate the paintbrush on the canvas. Feels unnatural, or I can be in my flow, and then the entirety of me is part of that. we're still missing one component, one ingredient for the whole picture. We'll come to that in a moment. But in order to get there, I invite us to a little experiment without too much explanation. And that would be an active curl. So we're going to curl into ourselves, and let's compare that with a collapse for a moment. So we can just collapse into a curl with no tension or hardly any tension or tone or activation. And that can feel really nice and relaxing too. Sometimes you just need to collapse. But what we're looking forward to right now is more an active version of that. And that involves, yet again, the entirety of me. And like including the toes. So if you can do that in your shoes, or you can take your shoes off like I did, like a little bit that feeling of like, I want to pick up a pencil with my toes. All that beautiful movability that we have in there. So the feet will be part of that. And then let's bring in the hands, kind of mirroring what the feet are doing. The hands will be part of our curl. And then as we're curling down, which you can do seated, it's also a fun thing to try on, laying down on the floor. As we're curling in, we will curl in with our hands, with our feet, and with the entirety of us, with our head. Just everything gets to go into an active curl. And just for a moment, enjoy the sensation. There's a certain tone, a certain activation, a certain charging up happening. And then once you feel like you're ready and charged up, you can use the image of a seed underground in the spring, and it's time to break the shell of the seed and come up into the sunlight and just pushing into the earth, pushing into the air, pushing into the world, and coming up into a full expansion, into full uprightness, and just feeling into that uprightness, into the integrity of it. Just checking in if there's collapse happening, or if there's rigidity happening, or if there's mostly tone happening. Let's just do that one more time. Let's find another active curl. Charging up. And then pushing into the earth, pushing into the world, allowing ourselves to come to an upright expansion. So here's another companion, another part of us, another aspect of our system that we're playing with here, and that's that mysterious fascia. So fascia is a tissue that is thin, but also very elastic, very stretchy, and that tissue wraps literally everything. There's fascia around the muscles. There's fascia even like partially woven into the muscles. There's fascia around the bones. There's fascia around the organs. There's fascia even around our arteries and veins. So fascia is literally the great connector of like all those lines and all those parts that we were visiting they are already a network, and fascia is the big connector, the big net, the container. For a moment, let's just feel the connection of all of us, just going away from the idea that I have a foot and I have a head and I have a shoulder, into just the wholeness of this connected network, brought together by fascia. So fascia, while being the great connector, has some other really cool qualities. One of them is that it actually gives our body, gives our system information of our orientation in space. Where and how am I in space is something fascia tells our system. Fascia is also very much responsible for, like we explored at fluidity, very much responsible for our fluidity and smoothness. There's a certain lubrication that is happening through the presence of fascia. Here comes yet another really cool thing. Fascia can be too tight. And there are various reasons why fascia can tighten. And part of that reason can be anxiety and stress, believe it or not. And part of what can relax fascia can be calmness, can be taking some deep breaths, and can just be a gentle awareness of ourselves that influences how our fascia responds and can restore our fascia to elasticity. Of course, like injury would play a part with fascia that is tensing. It's to protect. Dehydration could lead to rigidity. But I just thought it was so fascinating how fascia responds to our mental state, to our mental emotional state. Now, if we perceive fascia connecting all of us, and we're going back into one of those curls. Hi, come on in. And we're going back into one of those curls. So let's do that. Let's do that with an awareness. And here I'm giving you a little bit of a flawed image, but it's still kind of interesting to play with. If we're saying that fascia is like this elastic, stretchy tissue everywhere, and we're comparing it to a trampoline. A trampoline already has a certain tone, even if no one is on it. Now, if we put a person or weight into the trampoline, it loads up, right? So here's where the picture is a little bit flawed. As I'm folding forward, we can picture like the fascia in our backside, like is stretching and kind of loading up through that. In the front side, of course, there are areas where our fascia is more shortening, so we can kind of picture it like a spring being pushed together, and that is what creates that charge, that charging up, that feeling of an active charge. And one more cool thing that's happening, as we're going into a curling position, we're signaling our body safety. Safety, calmness. So while on the one side we're charging up, actively charging up our fascia, we're also giving it the signal of safety and calm, which gives it the ability to relax and be elastic and nourished. And then when we're ready, we just allow that trampoline, the fascia, to spring back into the world. Let's do that one more time. Stretching our elastics, creating a charge. And when you're ready, allowing that to balance out again. So, final piece of that puzzle, I would say, another thing happened in the fascia, and that's kind of, you can compare that a little bit to like the tree or the sunflower. So, we have our being made out of so many organs and lines and skeleton, of course, and we have gravity, right? If we were mostly a pile of organs and with some skin around it, and we would be on this planet, we would just collapse. We would be a puddle on the floor. In come our skeleton, which are our spacers, our tent poles, if you will, so, and they allow already for some upright structure. And then we have fascia, being our tree bark, being our cellular skin, or our skin of the sunflower, being the container that brings in like the outward, like the pressure from outside in. So instead of us flouncing down, we get to have that nice fascia container bringing in an inside pressure. So we have an outside and downward pressure facing that beautiful inward pressure, which creates a tensegrity, which creates an easy, unefforted uprightness because of a tissue that connects the wholeness of us and creates the container for us. Just take a moment, feel into that idea, embody that idea. Maybe play with just finding, stepping into that relaxed, activated, toned wholeness of me being a line in the world. And maybe bring that back into some movement through space, like we did in the beginning. Bring that back into the washing of the dishes, into the vacuuming of the floor. Just noticing if you feel the change in that shift. So having found that fun tone, that effortless uprightness with fascia, and having learned, or heard at least, that our psychological state, our mental emotional state might have an influence on fascia, I thought it would be really interesting to play and see if my attitude changes the tone that I'm perceiving in my body. So if we're taking an unefforted, easy, supported tone into a walk, maybe we're back to walking a line or you have a circle. But then just feeling into yourself as we're shifting attitude. And it's maybe I'm walking somewhere and my thought is, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really difficult. Just notice what shifts, what changes. Notice any places of rigidity, tension, collapse again. Or if the effortless tone was easy to stay there. Maybe shifting the attitude again. Maybe now it's, I really look forward to that. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to be at that friend's place who makes the best coffee in the world. And notice your tone changing there. And the ease or effort it takes to move through space. What about something like, I'm not good at this? What about, I can achieve anything I put my mind to? I might not do it perfect, but I will do it well, but I will give it my best shot. So let's just take a moment and find your own attitudes to play with. And maybe you can even visit like some habitual attitudes, some that is like, oh yeah, that's so me. And just see if you can feel the difference in the shift of your entire body's tone as you enter into those. It can be positive ones, they can be negative ones that you know maybe are not the best attitudes. Let's see. Ready, come back to a stand. So fluidity was the pattern that brought us in touch with our inner compass. We were exploring a little bit the sensation of, I like this, I don't like that, I want more of this, I can do with less of that, right? So that's what fluidity introduces us to. Now, line, part of the line pattern is now knowing what I like and what I don't like. Can I actually make those demands? Can I actually bring those things in? Can I keep them out? So for a moment, let's play with bringing things in or keeping things out or getting rid of things. We had that image of osmosis and things floating in and out, right? But also the ability of opening our energetic membrane, bringing things in, pushing things out. So let's maybe start with, I know what I like, I know what I want, I'm gonna get it, but do I really deserve it? And just feel into I need that or I want that, but do I deserve it? Or I know what I need, but what are they going to think about me if I actually get it? And then compare it to I know what I need, and with the wholeness of me, with all of me, I'm allowing myself to bring that in, because this is what I need, or I know what I want. And with the wholeness of me, I'm allowing myself to reach and bring it in. With the full support of my fascia, I get to reach and bring it in from my toes to my fingertips to my hair tips. So, other example, other direction. I know what I don't want, but what are they going to think of me if I say no? Oh, there we are again. So, no, that needs to stay out. I know what I don't want. I've tolerated it before. Maybe I can put up a smile and get through it, right? Or comparing it to, I know what I don't need, I know what I don't want. With the wholeness of me, I allow myself to say, no, no, thank you. No, I'm full. Here I am, I know what I need to let go of. But I kind of held on so long to it. Can I really? What are they going to think of me if I change that much? Or here I am, and with the full knowing of what I need to let go of, and with the full integrity of me, I allow myself to propel things out. So let's just also take a moment to find your integrated, line-supported, fascia-supported yeses and nos, and bringing in, pushing out, letting go, comparing them to maybe some of the habitual ones. What does it mean to know what I need and to ask for it? What does it mean to know what I don't need and to have a real boundary? Just taking a moment to let those ideas reverberate, sink in. And since we've been playing with the IFS ideas in this context too, also the invitation that if any things came up, if anything strongly resonated or gave us a pinch, like, oh, that's so me, to also go and visit with that part of you, with curiosity and compassion. Getting curious about them. Why are you so afraid of me saying no? Why are you so afraid of me saying an open yes to getting what I need? Thank you, everyone. That's, I think, all I wanted to visit for today. But I'd be super curious if there were any things that came forward already, or things that surprised you or interesting.